of a day, and then in the night, glow of a burning flame. For everywhere I go to see you, everywhere I go to see you, everywhere I go to see you, everywhere I go to see you. One greatest to another is all yours.
It's good to be back this evening on this side of the world. Chilly, cold, snowy, but that's okay. We're enjoying whatever is brought to us. You know, I was watching the birds today. I usually throw them out food and bread and a little bit of everything, and they were just having a great time out there. I seen high as looked like at least 50 to 75 birds at one time. Just all sorts of them. But it's really, really nice to watch. Somebody told me one time, said, yeah, I wouldn't want to have the mess that you had to clean up. No, you just got to fix you a place where while they're eating, you've got gravel and you've got sand and you've got it all boxed in like a sandbox, and so whatever they do, when the rain comes, it just washes it all away. So, you know, you just gotta, if you want to enjoy something, you got to kind of prepare for it. But back this evening, we finished up Sunday on what was going on in the heavens. And it was called Aquarius Stellium. It is still going on now. Today is the 5th, and it started coming into its constellation, or in its alignment, of 7 planets. Actually 7 planets and 2 other type stars. I forget what you call them, but anyway, there was 9 total in alignment that they were talking about. But 7 planets, including the moon, the sun, and all these different things. And Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Venus, right on down the line. And it's the exact same. It's a replica of 1962. And I was thinking back, through the week, I was thinking back at all the things that happened there under the, say, 1962 through 1965, when the prophet went off the scene. The Pope went off the scene in 64. The President went off the scene in 63. The prophet went off the scene in 65. I mean, it was such a total change that even Russia's leader, he passed, and several of them, and it was such a total change in the whole atmosphere of the earth. And of course, you know, Vietnam and that whole mess that went on, and then you had so many things happening, the civil rights, and you know, they were doing so much battle over the civil rights, whether or not a black and a white person should be in the same restroom. Things kind of funny, you know. I was thinking about that back then. And I thought, here we are in 2021, and we're trying to figure out whether males and females should be in the same restroom. Back then, it was blacks and whites. But you know, I'll stick with the ones that males in one restroom, females in the other. And I think I'll just hang in with that one. I'll stick with the ones that want to own guns, want to keep the restrooms separate. I'll just be with them. And if that upsets you, well, you just find somebody to go in the restroom with you. I don't care. Take turns. There you go. I told my wife, I said, it's going to get to the point where I have to stand at the front door of the restroom and not let anybody in unless it's a female while she's in there. So we were laughing about it. We finished up talking on that, and it's still going on. Major shifts, no doubt in my mind, are going to take place. Say, when will it happen? Well, just look back there. When it came in February of 62, by March of 63, the seals were open, and it was a new day spiritually and religiously. The Pope died in September of 64. It's changed the whole religious scene. The president died in November '63, changed the whole political scene. Just so much that went on. The Civil Rights Act was brought in. It changed the whole scene as far as with civil rights. And then as soon as the civil rights was passed, the Republicans passed the Civil Rights Bill. Every Democrat voted against it, in case you don't know that. I just thought I'd bring that up. Not one Democrat voted for it. But anyway, once the Civil Rights Bill was passed by the Republicans, right away, the other party started coming out with Jim Crow laws. There's tons of them. What I mean by Jim Crow law, it was a law that didn't quite break the laws on the books, but it still held the races of people in their place. Like, you don't belong here and you don't belong there. And you get that, like, here we are, we're opening up this new understanding, a new spiritual civil rights, bringing the gender and the female and everything to where it should be and opening up into a level playing field. And now you get those people that say, well, I understand a level playing field, but still a woman shouldn't do this and this and this. And I just kind of shake my head and I think we're the Jim Crow laws.
They don't understand their level playing field.
It's this Jim Crow laws. Wanting to stay under the old thing and just passing some in-between laws. So with all of that happening back there, here we are in this day, and you see everything that's happening in this day. And with these major changes happening in the heavens. So I got to thinking about what we were talking about Aquarius, Stellum, the alignment and everything. And I got to thinking about what exactly does this mean to us with these changes going on, and how do you come to understand what the move of the Spirit is for you in your life, and what the move of the Spirit is publicly? How do you understand that? So I wrote this, and I wanted to read it. I know that we all have a general recollection of Genesis, and it's one of the first things if I remember that Mom and Dad ever read me out of the Bible was Genesis 1 and the whole creation scene, and then it was, I needed to learn some verses, like Psalms 23 and 1, the Lord is my shepherd, right down the line, and that thing.
Mm-hmm. That thing.
That's what
that
Joe Biden always said. That thing. And then, of course, you needed to learn St. John 3:16, for God so loved the world and gave his only begotten Son, and so forth. And so I learned those things. Genesis was always a creational chapter for me, no matter how I looked at it. I thought of it as there used to be nothing, and then there was something. And I wanted to read a scripture and then read what I had written and talk about how kind of the movement of the Spirit of life, and how there's I don't want to call it a formula, but there's a process, there's a cycle, there's a formula that flourishes the Spirit of life. And there's a cycle and a process that digresses it. And I wanted to look at that, since we're talking about what's going on in the heavens. How will it affect us? And we'll have discussion on it while we're going through it. John 1 and 4. John is talking about Jesus Christ. And he says, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. Now, everybody takes that scripture and excludes it from everybody except Jesus. And so, there's nobody else that is so powerful that in them is life, and that life is the light of all men. Well, I come to an understanding that that's just not true. This scripture was for Jesus in his day. And I could say that that scripture was for every person that lit the world in their day, in their time, and had an influence upon people, groups, the world, or whatever. In them was life, and that life in them was the light of men. Mm-hmm. It helped humanity move forward in the things that it needed to understand. And so I wrote this. This is kind of where we ended up. We see the Messiah's mission always has a woman component in it. The Messiah is not just a male. For the Messiah to unfold and break itself open, it is a male-female component. And so we see the Messiah, the whole mission of Messiah, always has a woman component. Messiah revealing itself for the first time to the woman at the well. He had never said he was the Messiah before. He had been with his disciples. He had been talking to the Pharisees. He had been in the wedding of Cana. He'd been walking for days and days and days, and then he meets this woman at the well, which I said was a whore, and I used the serpent and the woman, serpent and the whore meeting at the well. He was a serpent because he wasn't able to express himself and bring out the attribute of Messiah. And so him being alone and she being alone, they drew one another. The Messiah revealing itself for the first time after resurrection to the woman on the road, at the well, and then the women on the road. After the resurrection, he shows up, and it's to women on the road. So it's always a woman component when the Messiah is ready to reveal himself. He's not just male. He's male-female when he's revealing himself. We are understanding that what we're being saved from, it's not like the Savior and a woman. We understand that what we're being saved from is loneliness. And Jesus was being saved at that well just as much as the woman was being saved at that well. It was a matter of loneliness. He couldn't break open who he was. He couldn't find the people that would listen to him. He couldn't find the people that would understand him. And she's over here trying to find a man that she can trust and love and believe in. And the two, completely lonely, had drew one another to themselves. And so what we're saving ourselves from by connecting up is loneliness, from a separated male-female conflicted identity. When Messiah is presence, we feel we've left the darkness, or we've left the confusion and the unknown to the known. We've come to the light. The desperation ends beautifully in unity of the two. As individuals, we desire union and are fulfilled. When our individuality, separation, is swallowed up in recognition. When somebody recognizes, when we deal with ourselves and recognize that woman talking in us or recognize that male talking in us and make the necessary adjustments within ourselves, it brings a satisfaction and a recognition. Just as when you meet up with someone out in the public, like Jesus did with a woman, desiring both of them to reveal one another, it brings a recognition and a satisfaction. So that's kind of where we ended up, the whole male-female connection, and how life comes through that connection. So I wrote this. Just a thought about Genesis 1:1-6. Is it really what we think it is? Or is it a description from Moses of civilization in disarray and chaos, forming a systematic way of life? Did Moses reveal to us a formula for life in humanity? If you read the Hebrew and Greek, it opens to us that the earth and the heavens created God. That's the way it reads. In the independent clause, all by itself in a verse, Genesis 1:1. Earth and heavens created God in the beginning. So, of course, we got to change that around. God created the heavens and the earth. But that's the way it was originally written. Now, I'll go on talking here for just a minute about this. Let's look at Genesis 1 through 6. Exactly what was Moses writing? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Or, in the beginning, the heavens and the earth created God. The earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. Then God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." So we see this now. I wrote down and I said, prophets often viewed things, and I know this for a fact, and wrote through metaphors and types and shadows and spiritual comprehensions of life. And is it what Moses did so much of in his writings, in this whole creation writing? Is the first writing of Genesis what life does, all life does, in a systematic way to continue its replenishment every day? That first 6 verses that we read, is that a formula for life to replenish itself and flourish itself and become more and more and more in depth in everything around it? Then I said, if you look at Jeremiah, and his writings about the systematic life of the northern kingdom of Israel, and how that northern kingdom was falling apart in Jeremiah 4:22 through 28. You just read that, and we will. Genesis 1 to 6 is a systematic way of life in the earth coming together and flourishing in life. And Jeremiah 4:22 through 28 is a systematic way of life digressing in that northern kingdom at that time. And Jeremiah was watching the Genesis 1 formula that Moses had written going in reverse and taking the northern kingdom right back out of existence. Well, they were there before Jeremiah wrote it, and they were there after Jeremiah wrote it. And I can see that there was civilization before Genesis 1, and then Moses wrote about how civilization can flourish itself, and there's civilization after Genesis 1. So Jeremiah 4:22 to 28. Listen to him. "For my people are foolish. They know me not. They are as stupid children and have no understanding." Now, it's going the other way. "They are shrewd to do evil, but to do good they do not know. I looked," listen to him, "I looked on the earth, and behold, it was formless and void." So Jeremiah is writing about how the earth, the people, the civilizations, humanity, can go back into a formless and void condition that they came out of. I looked on the earth, and behold, it was formless and void, and to the heavens, and they had no light. It's like in Genesis 1. I looked on the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and at the hills moved to and fro. I looked, and behold, there was no man, just like in Genesis 1. And all the birds of the heavens had fled. I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was a wilderness, and all the cities were pulled down before the Lord, before his fierce anger. For thus saith the Lord, the whole land will be desolation, yet I will not execute a complete destruction. For this the earth shall mourn, and the heavens above be dark. Because I have spoken, I have purposed, and I will not change my mind. I will not turn from it. So look at the parallel between these two prophets. Moses writing about a Genesis 1 situation of how humanity would go into a growth cycle and would flourish and bring forth light and bring forth man and bring forth all of these things flourishing in humanity. And then Jeremiah is writing about how you can stand in a reverse cycle and take yourself right back out into where there's no man, there's no light, there's no form, and it's void. It's totally void. But yet we know the northern kingdom remained there after he said that. And we know the northern kingdom was there before he said that. So in Genesis 1, Moses, what was he doing? I don't think, like I said, science itself proves beyond the shadow of a doubt. Anthropology proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that humans have been here for millions of years, at least 1.2 million years. Just going back through the bloodlines and the DNA and the ancestry. So Genesis 1 had to be Moses writing about man. And how that when humanity starts forming certain things, they can flourish. When they start forming certain things and ideas and principles and ways of walking, things come to light. Form takes place. Things come into creation. When you look at it in that manner, it's not so much that there wasn't a civilization already there. It's just that Moses was writing about a new civilization that was bringing some form and bringing some light and bringing some understanding to humanity. So we plainly see that the procreation, the change of the earth and its systematic way of life, is the formula in Genesis for humanity to flourish. Moses was very clear about that. For it to flourish, expand, and replenish itself. We plainly see in Jeremiah's writings that a reverse of that Genesis formula is an utter destruction of humanity and takes us into formless and void, full of darkness, no birds, no light, no botany life, darkness all across the northern kingdom. But they were all still there. They were still going through day and night. They were still going. They were going to the grocery store. They were taking their donkeys here and there. They were going to the market. They were doing everything. But a prophet seen them in the same condition that Moses seen the human civilization before they started understanding something about themselves. There has to come an understanding about something that wakes humanity up. And all of these things begin to form. We'll look at that. Think about it open-minded and spiritually. People were living in the northern kingdom of Israel before Jeremiah wrote about their demise and people continued to live there in whatever conditions after the writings. So it is also true of Genesis, wherein people were before and after Genesis 1. And also look closely at the formula that Moses wrote for flourishing. So I guess just for discussion for a minute, do we understand, number one, that Genesis 1 wasn't the script for boom, the Big Bang Theory, and everything came to be? I mean, is that...
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremiah proves that by showing a certain group of people on the earth were just like the ones in Genesis 1. They had come to a point of no form, void, dark, no light, no man, no birds, no botany life. It was a wilderness. But they were all there. Everything was there. So we see this expanding and replenishing in Genesis 1 is what we are doing now. Is this light that we're catching now, is it breaking on the horizon and taking a generation of humanity and humanity as a whole further along to where someday there's going to be a group of people, some leader or whoever that might rise and say, boy, back there in 2014 or back there in 1963, they were void and formless. They didn't know anything. They were a people that hardly knew of God or anything else. So something has to change in humanity. If humanity was already there, which I believe it was, then Moses was writing about a change in humanity that would make the earth, that would make the people, that would make everything expand in their understanding, expand and flourish physically, spiritually, in every way. So he wrote that first 6 or so verses. And you can read the rest of it. It's all about how it all came to be by those first 6 verses. So there was a mix of life, and it changed everything. What was that? What took humanity to a far-reaching place beyond where they were at when Moses wrote those words? Read the first verse. In the beginning, the heavens and the earth created God. That's a total change. That is a complete, abrupt change from everything that had ever been in humanity. Moses took humanity and made them God. That's what he did. Before, they didn't view themselves that way. They viewed whoever the conqueror was. That's who ruled the earth. But they didn't view themselves in the manner that Moses began to write on how that man is a god to the earth. Man is a caretaker to the earth. Humanity is a gardener to the earth. Humanity takes care of one another. Humanity has love and compassion. Humanity has a structure of them being God over the earth, not in rulership. That wasn't what it was. It was relationship. And Moses began to write about that. And that concept brought into humanity something that would flourish, that would grow, that would expand, that would become full of understanding when man viewed himself as God. And Jesus even said that. He let it be known very clear that ye are gods to whom the word of God comes to. And what we do when humanity doesn't flourish, I'll tell you why it doesn't. It may flourish in economics, it may flourish in politics, it may flourish in conquering and ruling and rulership. It may have all those things, but those things are formless and void and no light in them and everything else. Those things are the things that Jeremiah described as darkness. And that's no doubt where they were before Genesis 1. And then Moses brought in light. Light that said, man, you should be beyond this. And he began to bring in how that man is a caretaker. Man is a lover. Man is a gardener to the earth and is a dominacy in the correct way, a kingship, so to speak, a righteous king. Man is a righteous king over the earth. He even said to Moses, Moses, I'm going to make you God. That's what's supposed to happen in the earth. Man is supposed to be God. We got some God floating around out there in the heavens somewhere, and that's not what it's about. The Spirit, listen to this, in the beginning, the heavens and the earth created God. The Spirit brought forth and manifested the heavens and the earth. Mm-hmm. The heavens and the earth is us. Mm-hmm. It's humanity. It's our body. It's all of those things. And then the heavens and the earth, humanity, us, created God. Now, the issue as to whether or not we flourish or fall into demise is how we handle ourselves as God. Mm-hmm. That's the whole issue. The heavens and the earth were formless and void, without purpose, without fruit, without meaningful life, until they recognized who they were. Recognition of who you are brings on more life, more flourishment, more understanding, more fruit, more of everything when you recognize who you are. Heaven and earth recognize who it is, or they created God. I recognize I can treat the animal any way I want. I can be a God of judgment, or I can be a God of love. I can treat everything in the earth any way I want. I can tear it down, I can burn it down, I can dig it up, I can do anything I want. I can treat it all any way I want because I am God. But now, there's two formulas here. One of them is how you flourish as a God, and one of them is how you fall into demise as a God. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that have partaken of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you read what Jeremiah said. My people are a stupid people who eschew evil and don't know how to do good. You have misinterpreted your life, the tree of knowledge. You have misinterpreted it and started using it in an evil way instead of in a good way. And that is your demise. That is what takes humanity and digresses them back to void, formless, no light, darkness, everything that was before the beginning.
Go ahead. I'm learning, so go ahead.
The heavens and the earth were formless and void. The Spirit created, or the Spirit expressed us out of Him, heaven and earth. And then heaven and earth created God. not the Spirit. The Spirit has always been here. But heaven and earth created God. And the God that we created is us. We were the ones to walk in it, to have a relationship with it, to love it, and to do all these things. Now, Genesis 1 and 2, it says, the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. So now humanity, the Spirit of God, God being humanity, the Spirit of humanity is moving in its surfaces across the earth. Waters are people. And across the surface of the waters. And the Spirit was alive and real. But the issue was the people, everyone was worshiping God, the Spirit, as if though he was a separate entity before Genesis 1. And Moses was writing it in a manner of trying to wake humanity up to God is not out there. God is in here. Whatever we bring forth from us is what God is. The Spirit, not talking about God now, the Spirit, that fountain of life, he's the one, she's the one, it's the one, I guess you could call it. It's the one that brought everything out. And then when heaven and earth, or when humanity came out of it, then humanity created God. The Spirit was alive and real, but everyone was worshiping. It was a separate entity from them. The Spirit moved upon the people, but humanity was in darkness without understanding. It wasn't that they didn't have the Spirit. It wasn't that the Spirit wasn't moving with them. They were living just like the northern kingdom was living, in void and in darkness and no light, and that's all inside here. That's all the way you act. That's all. The reason you fall into void and darkness is one reason: you don't know who you are. And you take on that formula of amnesia, and you can fall right back into that. But when we find out who we are, it's a different situation. Genesis 1 and 3, then God said, let there be light. Humanity said, this is not talking about the Spirit. The Spirit created humanity, and humanity created a God. And then God, or humanity, said, let there be light. Let's wake up a little bit. There's things we can do with this earth. There's things we can enjoy about the earth. We can grow things. We can grow spiritually. We can understand ourselves. We can become as the Spirit. We can know all things. We can live. We can do so much if we will just wake up to who we are and present ourselves as the gods of the earth. The Spirit, God said, humanity said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. All that's saying is, you recognize who you are. Civilization began to recognize who they were. They were taking this formula and they were putting it together, and they became gods of the earth. They became and understood that they were to have a relationship in the earth. And the more light they came to on how they could fellowship with the earth, the greater it got and the more understanding that came. And they separated the darkness from the light. They took the things that were unknown and now known, and they started applying what was now known. And they started separating out and saying the evil things about this, the dense things, the things with no light, we want to just kind of put them aside. And they separated it out to where we were coming to light in our understanding. That's all Moses was writing about. Humanity had been here for millions of years. But Moses, through the Spirit, sat down and formulated how humanity could come to such a beautiful revelation. If we can take male and female and unite it together, that's the issue. Understanding that we are God of this earth. Once humanity began to understand that there was and there were a God in the earth and that they were it, and were coming to an understanding of their relationship with the Spirit. Humanity is God. It was having a relationship with the Spirit that was covering the whole earth, the great fountain Spirit, which we were a part of, and we came out of and manifested ourselves out, and when we formed a God in the earth, and once we did that, we come to an understanding and a relationship of the Spirit forming humanity into God. And when we formed humanity into God, then there was a separation or an understanding of the kingdom. The animals do not have the power that I have. We formed godhood, we formed gods of the earth, and then there was separation. Mm-hmm. The animals, the botany life, the fowls of the air, and the fish of the sea, all of these things, we were a God over. And we were a God in relationship with. And so we separated out humanity from the rest of the earth in a way of making it the caretaker, the lover, the gardener, and the one that would have a relationship with the earth and nourish the earth and flourish it and use this formula and bring it forth in every way. So that was the separation that went on. And as humanity was doing that, it was forming itself into a greater humanity by recognizing we are the God of the earth. A spirit out here in the air somewhere is not the answer. We are the God of the earth, and that spirit dwells through all of us, from every animal to every bee to every horse to every cow to everything that's flapping its wings out there, everything that's laying down to go to sleep in the snow out there tonight, every animal that digs under the ground, all of it, the spirit of life is flowing in it. But we, humanity, comes to an understanding and separates out and says, yes, that's all true. But there is a God here, and it is us. We are the God of all this. Not to rule over it, but to take care of it.
And to understand it.
That's right. So Genesis 1 was showing us that. And God called the light day, and darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. Humanity already had days and nights. The sun would come up and it'd go down. The sun would come up and it'd go down. Humanity was here for 1.5 million years before Moses ever wrote a word. And they had days and nights and days and nights and days and nights. Well before Adam was ever here. So what is this saying? All of a sudden, humanity says, oh gee, we got days and nights now. No. Humanity already had days and nights for generations and generations and millions of years. When they began to understand their purpose and their meaning in life, gaining it by experience in the earth as gods, recognizing who we are now, not like they were before, but recognizing who we are now, gaining it by the experience as gods in the earth, then they compared the spiritual happening of night and day and separation within us as the day and night that was in the world naturally. So they started talking about there should be as much change in us as day and night. The darkness should be leaving us. They weren't talking about this darkness I'm looking at out here right now. They were talking about our way of thinking, our way of moving through humanity, our way of thinking that we were just another piece of the puzzle in in the earth, that we were just another biological thing in the earth. No, we are gods. We are beyond everything else in the earth. And it's not to try to make ourselves something. It is us who should be taking care of everything. That should be gardening. That should be nourishing everything. That should be speaking to one another the way I'm doing you tonight. So that we can nourish and cherish and grow and flourish and expand in our understanding of our heaven and earth. That's what this is all about. Am I crazy?
No.
Anything? Sister Nora?
This part of a good point. Yes, man spoke, and female brought forth all that was in the thought of us, of the oneness of the Spirit. So man spoke, and the female part of us brought it all out.
Yes. That's right. Then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters. Remember, God said, we're not talking about a spirit floating around here. We're talking about humanity. Humanity said among itself, in its direction and where it was going, the way to flourish is for humanity to say, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. Or in other words, let's expand in the earth, and let's keep moving out and moving out and moving out and create more and more races and generations and peoples and just keep moving in the earth and expanding or creating or making or replenishing more gods. Humanity was now understanding that relationship in the earth, and they were understanding their dominance over the earth. This is what Moses was bringing to us. Moses was bringing all of humanity out of disarray and into a consciousness of who they are. Their spoken word that would bring fruit and life into the earth was from the male attribute. And the spoken word, civilization, came to understanding and came to be, and then the female attribute was brought out of that, and in all of its beauty, the female began to be the tree or the nature in which all of humanity came through. Now, that's why it is so easy in the earth, if you don't watch, female becomes the god of the earth. In the fourth church age, Thyatira means dominating woman, dominating female, or dominating woman. And that can happen very quickly because we chose to bring all life through our female. Our female, the female part. The male speaks the word, but word is not life. It has to come to a manifestation to be life. And it goes through the female now. Due to the program that was set up, the female is totally connected and a part and just as much important as the male. And through that spoken word, then that female nourishes, incubates, takes care of it, brings forth that spoken word into manifestation, and it brings a spoken word civilization through the womb of a woman. It's still spoken word. Nothing can come here without it being spoken word. But like Brother Branham said in Future Home, he said that didn't interrupt a thing. He said it just added one more piece to the journey from theophany to here in the earth, and that was to go through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or to come through the woman. So what we are talking about is life and the light of men. Life comes out of the spoken word, is placed into the womb of the woman, and the woman nature nourishes it and brings that life forth, and all the attributes of male, female are in it. And that's where we need to come to and need to understand that the real true God of the earth, what he said to, when he said to Adam, I'm going to make you the God of the earth, you're going to be the caretaker, you're going to be all these things. It was the male, female together. And he called their name Adam. It was one, it was male, female together in attribute. And after they came out of that attribute, now you've got a separation, and now you've got a disconnect, so to speak. And now you've got to somehow build a bridge, which is what Jesus Christ did. Build a bridge for that disconnect to bring the male-female entity back together again and not be a twofold being. So we see this going on, the life and the light of men. That is the reason that John referred to Jesus as exactly that. The life and the light of men. Jesus took the people that he walked with, that he touched and he loved, through the movement of the Spirit of life for his day. Jeremiah was the life and the light of men. Isaiah was the life and the light of men. Moses was the life and the light of men. Abraham was, Isaac was. Don Parnell is, not was, is. Sister Norad is. Alan is. Alan Stuckless is. Marion is. Edwin is. Today we are the life and the light of men. And we are the gods in the earth. And I don't say that religiously like we are superior to the rest of human beings. I'm talking about humanity is a God over the earth. And those of us that recognize that can come to a much greater in-depth experience while we're here than those who don't. And the way that we treat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil can carry us into that cycle of demise that Jeremiah seen for the northern kingdom, or it can carry us into that cycle of flourishment and life and understanding that Moses seen in Genesis 1. The energy is there, however you handle it. However you handle it.
I'm starting to think of just what you're saying. I'm starting to think of Adam and Eve as not as a being, or like one male Adam and then one female Eve, but as a spirit of male, female. Adam being the spirit of male, that's the nature, the name that was given. Eve being the spirit of female, that's the nature and name that was given. But it wasn't two beings. It was the nature of humanity.
That's right.
Adam nature, Eve nature, male,
Yes.
female.
When you look at it that way, you're able to dissect and take a good look at both of them, and then put them back together inside you. Put them back together inside you, and always know which one is coming out at the time that you speak, at the time that you act, and the things that you do every day of your life. You have an understanding of which one is being dominant at the time, or is expressing its relationship at the time. Because the woman was definitely dominant over the man in many ways. I mean, if you had a baby lately, you can't.
Thank God.
But she can. I mean, there's so many things that a woman can do that a
Right.
man can't.
Right.
So it's not a matter of male dominancy and female surrender. When we come to understanding God of the earth, that was that male-female together. That was God of the earth. That was an entity. We were talking about that earlier today. How that this is not the age for the female to be taking over. That's not what this is. This is not the age for the male to stay in dominance. This is the age that male, female, both those attributes, they're one entity. Both of those attributes understand themselves and merge together. And then they come out in manifestation in whatever relationship is needed. That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. That's it, right there.
I think you were talking about it earlier.
I was looking in and thinking about that today, and you know, if you look at the pattern, when we stepped out there, that male nature took over. It didn't hesitate. It said, "You're over here, and I'm stepping forth, and I'm taking the reins, and you're going to follow, and I'm going to say the word, and then you're going to do the word." And that's how the relationship. Now it's changed, but there's a choice laying before it. It has a choice of saying, "Now we come back together as one." And there's a new mixed nature right back to what we were, yet more evolved, because now we got all this experience behind it, where before we didn't. We had the two natures together with all knowledge, no experience. Now you've got the knowledge and the experience. You put it back together, you have a whole new mixture.
Yes.
Or you can go the other way, and she can say, "No, I'm going to dominate for a while. You're going to be subservient," and take us the long way home
Yeah.
through a long roundabout
Yeah.
process of eliminating
Yeah.
this, eliminating that, going through this, enduring that, putting up with. So which choice is it going to
Yeah.
be?
You get an elongated path.
Exactly. Taking the long way home.
We're still going to get down here.
Still going to get home.
It depends on whether you want to remember the shortest distance to a point is a straight line.
Right.
And you can elongate it.
Yeah.
However you want to do it.
Yeah.
Let that female and that male battle over who's dominant inside you.
Right.
Oh man, it's a battle. Or you can let them rest and be king and queen in the kingdom. Be the queen, have just as much power, just as much authority, just as much everything in the kingdom. And let them form a relationship, and let that entity present itself in whatever is the necessary manifestation, whether it's male or whether it's female or whatever it might be.
And there's influences out there right now that want to go the other way. They want to say, "No, it's time for the female to rise up and the male to sit down," and they want to take humanity in that direction.
Yes.
And we got to have common sense and say, that's not what we're about.
That's right.
We've did that already, and look where it took us.
Yeah.
It took us through breaking up families. It took us through the world getting flooded and dying. It put a man on the... Look where it took us.
Yes.
We don't want to do that again. We done it. We don't need to do
That's
that
right.
no more.
Thyatira age, we had
Yes.
the dominating
Yes.
female woman.
Yes.
And then so there was 1,000 years of darkness, and there was 1,000 years of slaughter and killing, until there was 68 million on the books, not including those that didn't get recorded. That's what happens. You say, "Okay, Brother Parnell, yes, the males were just as bad when the male dominated as the woman was when she dominated." So you know what we need to do? We need to understand that the woman in her loneliness will do some horrible things. And the male in his loneliness will do some horrible things. But if we can take those two and put them together into an entity, it's the God over the earth. It's the greatest power in all the earth.
That's right.
It's the thing that Adam gave away, and it went back to the Spirit until all of this domination and rulership and everything else come to its end. And now the Spirit is turning back over Godhood to humanity in Aquarius. That's what it's doing. So that we can do what? Live on an earth in Godhood, in humanity, in Capricorn.
In Capricorn. Yeah.
It's a great day. It's a great understanding. When the Spirit of life is ready to move forward, in humanity. There will always be people transformed from theophany to come into the earth and startle, shake, disturb, and awaken humanity to the next move. It'll always happen. When the Spirit is ready to make its move, it will manifest out of it another whoever, Martin Luther, another John Wesley, another. They won't have the same name, and it will be a different nature just because it's in a different day and a different time. But boom, out will manifest somebody who grew up in England or grew up in Germany or grew up in the United States or grew up wherever, and they will begin to say things and do things, and it may be many, many, many people across many places that they will begin to do things that will just shake humanity, and as a whole begin to move it forward into a greater understanding of their godhood, of their relationship with the earth. The earth is the body of the Spirit, and we are the caretakers of that body. Not a male body, not a female body. It's the body of the Spirit, the Great Spirit, and this body, we're here to be the caretakers and to move it along. We are the gods to take care of it for the Spirit. Theophany comes to earth, startles, shakes, disturbs, and awakens humanity to the next move. And these ones will be the life and the light of humanity. Whoever it is, whatever group it is. This is the pattern, and we see it working again. It's happening. We've seen the digression in Jeremiah. My people are foolish. They know me not. They are stupid children and have no understanding. They are shrewd to do evil, but to do good they do not know. I looked on the earth, and behold, it was formless and void. And I looked to the heavens, and they had no light. This was a people walking around on earth that the prophet Jeremiah was looking at and showing that they had fallen right back into a form before humanity recognized they were gods in the earth. They fell back to an inferior form. He goes on talking. Moving to the evil portion of the tree of knowledge. This is what he said they did. Stupid, eschewed evil, didn't know how to do good. Moving to the evil portion. Listen very closely. Moving to the evil portion of the tree of knowledge will remove knowing how to do good. That's what he said about them. They became stupid. They knew what good was, but they moved to the evil side. There's so much coming to my mind right now that I could start telling about, and just look at earth and humanity, the tree of knowledge, what's happening. So many have moved to the evil side of that tree, and they eschew evil, and they have forgotten how to do good. Your very thoughts and movements and contrivings will take you back into a disarray, and you'll lose sight of who you are, that you are the gardener and the caretaker of the earth, the God of relationship in the earth. You'll begin to worship a God outside of you and lower yourself to be inferior, removing your responsibility in the earth. Many of us say, it's up to God what happens. It's up to God what happens in the earth. God's going to take God's, and trying to put it out there somewhere. What we've done is we've lowered ourselves to eschew evil, forgotten how to do good, knowing that good will make the earth replenish. And in so doing that, we've removed it outside. We've removed the responsibility outside of ourselves and put it out there for something else to do. And in so doing, it carries us right back to that form before Genesis 1.
It prevents us from taking our knowledge and learning from it and turning it into understanding.
That's right.
the knowledge becomes perverted, misused, and you don't gain understanding from it.
That's it. Jeremiah said, I looked on the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and all the hills moved to and fro. I looked, and behold, there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens had fled. He looked all the way back to where they had gotten themselves out of a spoken word relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They had gotten themselves out of understanding who they were in the earth. Man had removed himself from the responsibility and from the response that he should have for the earth and for humanity. When we don't move forward in the spirit of life, then darkness takes over and there's no light. There's no man in the picture. The animal kingdom is out of place. Everything is amiss when humanity does not move in the spirit of life.
Mm-hmm.
We digress. The light of life is the path we walk in. And when we choose to not be that, when you say you're not the life and the light of men, oh, Jesus was 2,000 years ago, but we can't be today.
Right.
Immediately you're removing yourself, you're putting yourself into Jeremiah 4
Mm-hmm.
and digressing back into a formless and totally void person.
Death.
And try.
What is death? You can't die. You're eternal.
That's right.
So death is not about taking your life away. It's about perverting that life in such a way that you don't get out of it what you're supposed to. That's what death does.
That's what death
It doesn't
does.
kill you. It just perverts your life energy in such a way you're not able to progress with it.
It's good. That's what it does.
That's what it does. That's what death is.
Jeremiah said, I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was a wilderness. All that beautiful fruit, all the day and night of the fourth day back there, all the things that came about that Moses said could flourish were going away. I looked, and behold, the fruitful land was a wilderness, and all the cities were pulled down before the Lord, before his fierce anger. For thus says the Lord, the whole land will be desolation, yet I will not execute a complete destruction. He's changing. You know what he's doing? He's changing them. He's putting them through a little small space of hell so they can feel it. They can feel the void. They can feel the formlessness. They can feel death. They can feel hell. They can feel the experiences of it. And they say, I want to know who God is. I need a God. I need to get out of this. And then comes the flourishing of life. And you begin to recognize, I got to pull my own bootstraps up here. I got to wake myself up. If there's a God in the earth, I'm it. Sure, there's a great spirit, and he's flowing through the earth, and he's doing all these things. But I created the God of this earth. I am the God of this earth. I created the principles, the God, the relationship, the gardening, the caretaking. I created all these things in the earth. I'm the God. And sometimes we got to go back to that other form to wake us up. I think that just happened to us. Jeremiah looked at that. The whole land will be desolation. For this the earth shall mourn, and the heavens above be dark, because I have spoken it, and it will not change. I have purposed it. I will not turn from it. There will never be an execution of and complete destruction of the earth. He said it right there. I will not completely bring destruction. There will never be an execution of complete destruction. Humanity has experienced major atrocities and setbacks. Humanity has got sucker punched so many times by actions, our own actions and our own ways. But I'm going to tell you now, there's more good out there than there is evil. There's more grace out there than there is judgment. There's more love out there than there is hate. And it is going to take over. You can say, oh, Brother Parnell, it don't look good at the moment. Maybe it don't, but there is more love than good. There's more love than hate. Love will always, always, always conquer.
Mhm.
It might lose a battle, but it will never lose the war.
Because love consists of both, so what does it do? It works its way through itself, takes those things it doesn't need, things that are destructive, and it removes it from it and progresses with what's left.
That's right.
Love takes care of itself, and it's using humanity to do it.
Yes. It's what we said back there in one of the prophets. He said to leave that behind, and Paul said it, and go with that remains. That's what we're learning right now.
Right.
We're learning to leave a lot of things behind and go with what remains. And what remains might not have been what we wanted. I wanted a lot of things in my life, all through my life. But later I found out that the best thing that ever happened to me is I didn't get it.
Because what comes with it? A lesson.
That's right.
You now gained an understanding from what you got or didn't
Yes.
get.
Yes. There will never be a complete execution and destruction. Humanity has experienced major atrocities and setbacks, and we could name them all evening sitting here and talk long hours about them. However, humanity takes care of itself. The Spirit will enlighten the gods of the earth. Listen to me closely. The Spirit, the ever-flowing fountain Spirit, will enlighten the gods of the earth. That's us. Our next generation and our next generation and right on down the line. We are the gods of the earth. And at the times needed, He will enlighten, give more light to the gods of the earth. Those who continue with understanding of their relationship, and there will be mourning, there will be darkness, there will be a lot of things all around us, but the gods of the earth will perform and bring humanity back to its senses and back to its understanding. It always happens. It always happens. What is the movement of the Spirit of life today? And are there gods in the earth today? I got a few questions and we'll discuss this. What is the movement of the Spirit today? Are there gods in the earth today that the Spirit is dealing with? Are there gardeners? Are there caretakers? Those who have come to a relationship and are fostering new light, new understanding, new relationships, and connecting with the Spirit and connecting the Spirit to the earth, the body, and taking care of it and nourishing it and flourishing it and expanding it and bringing it to life? Are there those people in the earth today? What is their message today? What is their message today if they're here? Is humanity moving in the Spirit of life? And are we replenishing, flourishing, expanding humanity's qualities?
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. I mean, every one of those after the sentence, what is the movement of the Spirit of life today, and are there gods near it? Then you answered that sentence. Gardeners, caretakers, those who have come to relationship, who are fostering new light, new relationships, connections, connecting the Spirit and the earth. That is the answer to that sentence.
Yes. They are here in the earth today. And their message is what is going on today. You know, I'm not saying this about myself. There's a lot of you that are writing me things. I get a whole lot of what I'm saying from those of you that are writing me. I pay attention to Facebook. I see the things that are written. Brethren write me an email. Brethren write me in Messenger. Sisters write me. Send me emails. You know, if I start naming you, there's several of you out there that are doing these things for me. Several of you said, Brother Parnell, I think if I just wrote these things and put it on Facebook, probably wouldn't be much attention paid. But I really do see this And therefore I see you as a channel to be able to talk to you about it, and then you bring it out. I agree with that 100%. I am using my female as much as I am my male, or even more so today. I am watching the female spirit. I don't want to be that male judgment. I don't want to be that male rulership. I don't want to do those things. When I'm writing the things that I write now, you'll see me say, I would just like to talk about this thought. What do you think about it? Can we keep an open mind about it? I don't force things onto you. I want to do it in love, in empathy, in compassion, in understanding. And I want you to be able to feel like, you know what? He said those 5 or 6 things great, but I think if I added these 2 or 3 things, it'd be so much greater. I want you to do that. I want you to do that. If you don't feel like you can do it by writing it because I can't write well or because of who I am, send them to me. Many of you sisters that are out there, many of you brethren that are out there, don't worry about it. I will look at it, and if it fits into the flow of things, I will put it out there. Just like many of these things over the last 6 months, it has been many people who have written me, and I've pulled it back, I've looked at it, I've studied it, and I said, wow, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go with it. So this is a movement of one entity, one attribute, male, female nature going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Gardeners, caretakers, those who have come to relationship and are fostering new light. A relationship, Jesus specifically came to Mary in angelic form, Gabriel, talking to her, and Mary says to her, listen, you questioning how can this come through a sex birth, or how does this come without sex birth? Kind of looking at all these things, saying exactly where are we going with this? There's nothing wrong with those questions. Mary said, how can this be? And the angel of the Lord was discussing with her the greatest single thing that would ever take place in humanity. She didn't understand it, but listen to me. He was revealing it to a woman before he revealed it to anybody. A woman knew first in the earth that a Holy Ghost had touched and brought forth a birth without sex. A woman was the first to know. I mean, and her own husband, that male guy, he had in mind to put her away. Because this just don't happen. It's probably why I didn't speak to Joseph, because Joseph wouldn't have believed it. He came to someone who, even though they didn't understand it, would believe it. He showed it to a woman first. He showed it to a woman first that you can have gods in the earth. Who was it? Eve said to Adam, I've been thinking, and I think we can be gods in the earth and know just like God does. It was a woman that caught it first. It was a woman that caught the resurrection first on the road. It was a woman that caught the birth of Jesus first. I can just go on and on and on. What am I trying to say? Today, in this brand new creation, in this brand new day, when we're waking up to so many things in this horizon of new light, there are caretakers, there are gardeners, there are people that are replenishers, they are flourishing, they are bringing messages across the earth, helping everyone, and they are connected up with their female half. And they are connected up, and they are bringing her out in manifestation for us to be a holistic person rather than two entities or a twofold being. We're bringing it out as one person, one holistic being. Amen. stand in all of our authority and understanding. We are that civilization that come beyond Genesis 1. We have seen many regressions, but we're here again. We're at Genesis 1. We're breaking life, we're flourishing, we're moving forward, we're passing into an Aquarian age, we're passing into an age of understanding, we're coming into an age of a male-female entity, one attribute in nature. We're coming into it now. Let's not digress. Let's not go to the left or to the right. Let's stay right in with that and keep moving with it and bring out this full, wholesome, holistic relationship. Amen.
Now that we know what it's like to be separated, let's not be separated anymore.
Let's not be separated.
We had that experience, we've done it, the process is done, let's bring it back together, because now we have understanding that we can put to use.
That's it.
I like it. It's good.